Hello, my friends. Hello, everyone, and hope you are well. Are you ready to join? Well, today we have a very special guest that I announced a couple days ago. Let's invite her to join us and start the session that we are all waiting. So I invited our guest. I can't wait to have her join us, and I can't wait to launch our sessions of 2025. It's been a while since we were here together. I would say about a year. Uh, if you recall well, during the pandemic, we started our series. Let's see why the invitation did not go. Hold on. Okay, now the invitation went properly. If you recall well, during the pandemic, we started our live streaming sessions, and everyone was at home and everyone. Okay, Michelle is having problems joining us. Let's see what's happening. We'll give her another minute. So we started going live online and keeping busy, keeping motivated. It was a difficult time for everyone, but we made it through, and here we are again. I thought it is time for us to go back. I see that Michelle was finally able to join us. I was doing the introduction, Michelle.
Okay.
Okay. So, as you all know, my name is Badiaa Hiresh. I'm a mom. I'm an author. I'm a business and professional coach, and I'm the founder of the iChannel's news and broadcast, where everything was highlighted during the pandemic. I like to highlight success stories, authors, people who are looking for a voice to voice their opinion and their story. I like to voice success stories, and that's why we're here today, and people of specialty. Today, we have a very, very unique person that I got to meet through social media, which is very important because this is where we are today. And we're calling the session is not about the food, but about the mood. Let's welcome our author, okay, Michelle Pettis. Michelle, just say hi, and I'm gonna introduce you officially. I'm gonna read a part of your bio that was really, really, really interesting. Hello,
Okay.
Michelle.
I am so excited to be here tonight, Badiaa. Thanks for having me on.
Me too. Michelle Pettis is a TEDx speaker, food story coach, and author of the award-winning Amazon best-selling memoir, Living Large, The Stories of a Food Addict. Me too. For years, Michelle was a top performer for the most influential brands in media, including Radio 1 and Disney ABC. Finally, the stressful and competitive media advertising space took a toll on her mental and physical health. After gaining and losing over 700 pounds, she finally discovered the secret to quieting the battle between her mind, body, and hunger. Her story, Michelle's memoir, a category winner in the 2022 Memoir Prize for Books, explores the deep emotional and psychological connections to food and how these food stories shape our eating behaviors and weight management struggles. Michelle, I'm not gonna read more because I feel you are gonna give the value to your story, not me. I'm just reading. So Michelle, uh, brief us, tell us if on a personal level, who is Michelle Pettis? Self introduction.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I am, I'm a woman that is living in her purpose,
Mhm.
and I am a woman who is grateful for that. Years ago, either heard somebody say this or I read it, and it said like the two most important days in your life, the day that you were born, and then the day that you know why. And I am living in that why. And I tell you, Badiaa, I struggle. I struggle with emotional overeating. I struggle with yo-yo dieting. I struggle with stress eating for 40 years, from the time that I was 20 until the time that I was 60. It was a battle that I was losing, that I lost, that I lost year after year after year. But today, who am I? I'm a person that has figured it out. I'm a person that has figured out how to win. I'm a person that has figured out how to get connected to herself. I'm a person that has figured out that it is my purpose to be here to share with other people that I know, so that they can get connected to themselves and reclaim their power too. So that's who I am.
Michelle, I don't know if you are aware of the importance of the topic. I just want to share with you that we have people with us now among the audience from Beirut, and it's 3 a.m. there. People
Oh my
have
God.
been telling me, why am I doing against the time from Beirut, because they're used to me going live with my guest, but I guess they just decided to join us. Thank you, everyone. Just if you want to tell us where are you from, it will be very interesting in the comments. And as we go through the story, if you have any questions, please ask the question in any language you feel comfortable typing or writing, English, French, and Arabic, and we move forward having Michelle answer us. As I was saying, it's a topic that you touched upon. Really, really, every person, I think, has struggles with the weight, food, and mood.
Mhm.
So we're going to go now to asking you, who is Michelle Pettis, the author, and why do you write?
Okay. All right. So, I am, I love words. I love to write, but I didn't know that I loved to write and that I loved words until I wrote this book. And what happened really was that, as I was on this last leg of the journey, I would go in for my weekly checkups with my doctor, and I would come in and I would share, what I was eating, but that I always had some kind of story. And I was doing really well, which didn't surprise me because I could, I knew how to stick to a diet. I knew how to do that. I just never, in all those 40 years, figured out how to keep it off, how to stay. And my doctor would say to me, you know what, you are doing really well. You should write a cookbook. And I'm like, oh, I'm not writing a cookbook. I'm not gonna do that. No, no, give me my plan. Give me my shots. And let me get out of here, right? And so finally, after I got to my ideal, what I felt like was my ideal weight and size, I felt comfortable, and I felt like I had it, right? I felt like I had figured it out. And then the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, I got a little nervous. Not a little nervous, I got a lot nervous. I got a lot nervous because of what I heard. People were saying, "Oh, I'm so depressed. What are we going to do? I'm just eating, I'm just watching TV, I'm gaining weight." And I didn't want that to be me. And my new weight and size was new. It was new, so it hadn't been tested, right? And so I felt like I got to do something. And what the doctor said to me just kept coming back in my head. And in all my years of dieting, and I say this in my TED Talk, I never kept a food log. I never kept a journal. I never did any kind of writing. And all the reputable plans say to do that, but I never did that, right? So when the pandemic hit, I started trying to write. And so since my doctor said write a cookbook, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a cookbook. And because she said you need to include your stories, I said, oh, I'm going to include my stories. And because I had read something that said you need to be authentic, right? I said, okay, I'm going to keep a 90-day diary. So I set about trying to write this cookbook diary story thing, and not a single word would happen. And I'm like stuck. I'm like, what? Why is this happening? And so I went online. I went online, looked at the YouTube video, and the first thing the YouTube video said was, pick a thing. Pick a thing. So no wonder I wasn't writing. I was trying to do 3 things. So I sat there and I thought, okay, the cookbook. There are a million cookbooks online by people that's what they do. They're trained, they're chefs. I'm not that. You know, why would somebody read my cookbook, right? So I X that out. And then I looked at that 90-day diary. I got to tell you something, that bored me to tears. I'm like, nobody's going to read this because this 90-day diary, this is some boring stuff right here. I couldn't even read it. But when I settled on my stories, Badiaa, they just kept coming. They just started to bubble up. My book is 21 of those stories, what I call food stories. There are 15 that aren't even in the book.
So to tell the audience, you do not have a cookbook.
I do not have a cookbook.
But you have a secret to losing weight,
Yes.
or your own way to control your weight, and
yes.
you figured that out.
I
You
figured
want
it out.
to share
Yes.
with us what you figured out, or in a bit?
No. I will tell you. So here's what I figured out, and I'm gonna backdoor this a little bit. Um, we live in a culture that tells us that we have to control what we eat. They tell us that the food is the issue, that we need to eat less and exercise more. Those things are behaviors. Those are actions. So before anybody engages in any sort of behavior or action, they have to think first. So what I figured out is that the first thing that we need to do is we need to go to our thoughts. We need to go to our brain to start shifting what we're doing and not focus on behavior. And the weight loss industry keeps people focused on the thing that is really not the solution to the problem. As people speak, if I coach all kinds of people, I coach countless people. And what I always hear is, I'm an emotional eater. I'm an emotional overeater. And I look at the research, and the research tells us that 75% of people say that they are emotional eaters. 75% say that this is my problem, emotional eating. But if you look at the solutions that are offered, the solutions are all food solutions. And so food will never solve an emotional problem. And so people get stuck. They start feeling like they have no willpower, they have no self-control, they have no self-discipline, that it's their fault, that they can't do this thing, they can't even solve what the problem really is. That's the big hoax. And here's the other thing about it, is that the industry is not going to make any money, right,
Exactly.
on people going inside of their own story. This weight loss industry makes money when people buy the plans, when people buy the programs, when they buy the supplements, when they buy all that extra stuff. That all the extra stuff that does not solve the problem. And so people get trapped in this cycle of trying to make something work that's not going to work. What I teach people do, and I broke it down into the story. I teach people how to go inside of themselves for their answers, right? Because we have the answers. I had the answer to my situation all along. I just didn't know it. I didn't know how to tap into it. And so what I teach people how to do is how to go inside to tap into the answer, the emotional answers, right, to solve the solutions that they have around food. And I call it food stories. And it's different for everybody, but the process is the same. The process is the same.
You are absolutely right, because like if you watch TV, you have ads of snacks, etc., etc., and delivery, and now you don't have to cook; they'll ship
Yep,
everything to you.
yep,
Instacart,
yep,
other than
yep,
Instacart, etc. And
yep.
then they start with the pills that will make you lose weight, and then the injections that will
Mm-hmm,
make you lose weight. Although the
mm-hmm,
injections were for diabetes, but they were off the market because people were using them to lose weight.
mm-hmm.
And when the pandemic hit, they said the first thing you need to know that it hits obesity. So please be careful, exercise, be healthy, go, etc. But no one ever told us what to do when we are sitting at home. And your solution is so important because, like, we, our mind manage our body. Our mind is the soul.
Exactly. Our minds manage our body, right? Our bodies follow our brain. I teach it all the time. Our bodies follow our brain. So what people call eating disorders, it's not really an eating disorder. It's a thinking disorder. It
Okay.
is a thinking disorder. So when you correct your thoughts, everything else has to follow. But no one teaches us how to do that. And it's not in the best interest of the
Exactly.
culture for people to know and understand it. But let me tell you something, they know, the marketers know. You just said it earlier, we just said a few minutes ago, we are advertised to from from by the from the time we get out of the womb, right? So the advertising is incessant. It is everywhere, and what it does, it starts to rewire our brains. So that's the first thing. It starts at an early age. So you got advertising that starts at an early age. The third thing you have is the fact that they make the food addictive. They formulate it. These companies, the processed food companies, the snack food companies, the junk food companies, they spend billions, billions of dollars to formulate the food to make it addictive. And we don't understand why we can't stop. Well, we can't stop because they have put stuff in it so that we cannot. And so we're trying to fight and use willpower against something that is engineered to make us addicted to it. And addiction changes the brain. And so when addiction changes the brain, that's why you can't use willpower, why you can't use self-control, because it is a brain issue. So then they make it affordable. They make it affordable and they make it accessible, right? So you go, the stack machines, the vending machines, they are everywhere, right? They're everywhere. So you standing in line, you're bored, right? What you really are is bored. But you see the snack machine, so you get something to eat, to do something while you're in line. You're not hungry. You're just bored.
Exactly.
They spend billions of dollars on the marketing, on the colors that they choose. You look at the snack food. Look at the fast food restaurants. For the most part, the signs are red and yellow, some combination, because that stimulates appetite. It stimulates appetite, and we are walking around and we don't even understand how we're being manipulated. But as soon as we start to understand that, as soon as we get the information, then we can start taking our minds back. But we have to be conscious. We have to get aware first. Awareness is the very first thing. We have to know what's being done to us, because the reason that we have this problem is because people are unconsciously eating too much of the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. And when you can correct that, then you can get on back on
Exactly.
track.
So even like when you're at the market shopping for the house for the week, let's say, and then you reach the counter to check yourself out, thinking that that's it, I'm done, I got everything. As you're standing there, you see all those boxes of chocolate and chips and the little cute bags of gummies and etc. You take one from here, one from there, and you end up stocking uh,
Hmm.
on sugar without you wanting them,
Yes,
even if you had
absolutely.
decided to shop healthy. May I ask you to give us some few tips? I know before we discuss what to do next, can we have some
Okay.
few tips on how to control your day, your dinner, or whatever you want?
Sure, sure, sure. All right. So, my plan, right? My overall plan is called Mind Over Meals, right? And the way that you get to that, the way that you get to that place where your mind is over your meals, where your brain, where your brain is kicking in and you're being conscious about what you're eating. I've got what I call a secret formula, and it's questions. And this is something that I do every day myself. So I'm not just talking. I'm walking the walk. We have Before I put anything in my mouth, I ask, and if anybody's watching, write these questions down because these questions can save your life. The first thing I ask is, first of all, is this really food? Is is this really food? Is it really safe? How do I know that it's safe? Because the reality is the most of the information that we get about food in this culture is from the people that are selling it.
Exactly.
So we have to be suspicious, right? Is it food? Is it safe? How do I know it's safe? Am I really hungry? Am
Wow.
I hungry or am I something else? What just happened? Was I hungry 5 minutes ago? Was I hungry an hour ago? What email did I just see? Did somebody just call me? Why am I standing in front of the refrigerator when a few minutes ago I was in my room? Right? It just happened to me. It just happened to me yesterday. It just happened to me yesterday. I have a friend that I love and adore. She is like my ace. But sometimes she just annoys me. She annoys me. She's so bossy, right? Sometimes I can't even talk to her, but I love her. And we just had one of those conversations, and I hung up the phone, and I was super annoyed, right? I'm working. I get up. I go in, and I'd already had breakfast. I go in the kitchen. I open the refrigerator door, and as I'm sitting there opening the refrigerator door, I'm like, why am I standing here opening the refrigerator door? And then I thought to myself, oh, I just talked to I just talked to my friend. I'm annoyed with her, and that just that consciousness let me know that I wasn't hungry, and I put that someplace else. I'm like, I'll deal with that later. And just the fact that I was able to acknowledge the feeling and recognize the feeling made this desire to eat go away, because there's a difference. Well, here's what most people don't understand. There's a difference between hunger and the desire to eat. They're two different things, right? So being able to make that distinction, these questions help you do that. They create a pause, because there's a point where we think, I'm going to eat something, I want something to eat, and when we actually do it, right? The problem with people like like I used to be, is that we don't know how to create some space between that thought or that impulse and the actual action. Going to the questions does that. It gives you a time. It gives you time to make a different decision. It gives you time to give your brain back to make some to do what I call evaluate, ask, and think. So, is it is this really food? Am I hungry or am I something else? Why this food now? Why this particular food now? Right?
Yeah.
So we ask those questions, and then the final question is, if this food is not going to give me the body I say I want, and I've changed that over the years. If it's not going to give me the life, the body, the health, if it's not going to give me the result that I say I want, why am I eating it? And I know it seems like a lot of questions, but after a while, after you do it, oh hi Sheila, I see you on with us. But after you kind of make those questions a part of who you are, and you get used to saying them and you get used to practicing them, you can do them about 2 seconds.
Should
You
we
can just
type
run right through them.
them and stick them on the fridge?
You can, absolutely. You can. And somebody has told me I should make magnets out of them and sell them. But this is one more thing to do on the to-do list. But yes, type them out, put them on the refrigerator, put them on your phone,
Because
put them on your
to me, the
laptop.
most important question is, to me, as a person, am I really hungry?
Yes,
Because
yes,
usually when I'm not hungry and I go to the fridge, that's it. It's the habit of like eating something. And the worst part, when like you're eating something and you're not hungry, you
yes,
don't enjoy it.
yes. No, that's
Yeah.
true. You don't. You
So
don't.
yesterday, after talking to you, instead of me eating when I was heading towards the fridge, I took the umbrella and I went out walking. And I thought, okay, I don't care whether it's raining
Yes,
or not. Let me take that.
yes, yes. That's exactly how it works. That's exactly how it's supposed to work.
I said,
That's
let me go out and take that break and come back. If I'm hungry, I'll find myself something to eat.
exactly. And part of the problem, Nadia, is that we don't have a list of go-to things. So when I'm coaching people, one of the first things I do is I help them identify some things to do instead of, right? Once you identify, I'm not hungry, what I am is sad. Instead of eat, I will. I'm not hungry, what I am is angry. Instead of eat, this is what I will do. I'm not
Wow.
hungry, what I am is stressed. Instead of eat, this is what I will do. I'm not hungry, what I am is bored. Instead of eat, this is what I'll do. So if you have a list of that, right? And if you have your own list and you're working in a group of 10 other people and they have their list and you come together as a group, this is why group and community is so important. And then you've got 5 people and 5 people have their own list. There may be some duplication, but if there's not any duplication or just minimal duplication, you can come with 20 things to do. Your 5 things plus the things of the other people to do once you identify, what you are, and you don't feel like you have to hold on to the food because you're like, oh, if I'm not going to eat, what am I going to do? Right? Because that's all you have. So what we're in the practice of is moving all that old stuff out and moving the new stuff in so that we can know that food is not the answer to everything. The food is only the answer to one thing, and that is hunger. That's the only problem it will solve. And we aren't real clear on that because advertising tells us that food is the answer to everything. And it is not. It's only the answer to one thing.
Excellent point. We're going to come back to more technicalities, but let me ask you, uh, the book you wrote,
Mm-hmm.
okay? You're going to tell us the title yourself. What made you decide to share your experience? It's not easy to share our experience. It's not easy.
Yeah.
I know I wrote my biography. I published it internationally. I was still in Lebanon. I published it internationally. When you have international publishing coming to you and they want your book, you clap for yourself, etc. When my book got published, and they sent me the copies, I said, oh my God, what did I do? Those who don't know the story, now they do. So what made you decide to share your experience?
Yeah. So once I started writing, I mean, my doctor said write, so I wrote. And once I started writing and I shared the stories with a couple of people, they were like, oh, Michelle, this is really good. Right? This is really good. And I was like, oh, wow, really? Is it? Right? And as I was writing, I felt myself being released from the trauma.
True.
And the more I wrote, the freer I got. And I thought to myself, oh my God, this is it. And the more I shared my stories with people, the more people told me that they identified with the stories, that what I would, that they could feel it, that what I wrote was their own story, or it reminded them of their story. And the more I wrote, I felt compelled, right? I felt compelled to share it. So, I've been asked this question before, and here's the thing, is that I wrote the book for myself. I wrote the book for my own personal freedom, but I published it for other people. I wrote it for me and published it for
We're
others.
talking specifically about the book Living Large.
Leaving large, leaving large, the stories of a food addict. Leaving
Okay,
large. That's my book.
so the book is about uh, your experience as a woman, or is about your experience? Are you sharing the technicalities of on how to handle?
Okay, so what I discovered in writing the book, and here's the thing, is that we have emotional connections to food that drive how we respond to it. And until I wrote this book, I didn't make the connection. I couldn't make the connection. I had been to therapy. I had heard about emotional eating, but how that connection worked wasn't really clear. And here's what happened. I had I had been going to I had been on my plan with my doctor for a while, and I was doing really well. And she told me, if you take these shots, you follow this plan, you will not be hungry. Cool. All right, I can do this. I've done it many times before. And so I did it for a couple of months, and I was doing really well. And then there came a time. I I feel like I'm sitting in the room right now when it happened. There came a time when I wanted to eat. And I thought to myself, why do I want to eat? Because the doctor told me, if I take this shot and follow this program, I won't be hungry. Why do I want to eat? And I will tell you, I was 60 years old, and that is the first time in my life I had ever asked myself that question. Why do I want to eat right now?
Or
I
you
never asked
knew
myself that
the
question.
extent and the importance of it?
No, didn't know. Even then, I didn't know.
Exactly.
Even then, I didn't know. And so as I was sitting there, this story kind of bubbled up in my consciousness. I am I am from the South. I grew up in Texas. Born in California, but I grew up in Texas. I call myself a Texan. Um, and I grew up with my grandparents who owned a farm. And there was a point some years back, we were on the farm, and we were on my uncle's farm, as a matter of fact, and we were having a barbecue cookout kind of thing. And that's what we do. That's what we do in the South. Black folks, that's what we do. We barbecue, we cook out, we eat watermelon. And so we were bringing out the watermelon, and I asked my uncle if he wanted some. And my uncle was about 65, 70 years old. And my uncle said, no, I don't eat watermelon. And And I didn't understand why. I'm like, well, why not? We're on your farm. It's your watermelon. Everybody eats watermelon. Everybody likes watermelon. Why don't you eat it? What's wrong? Why don't you want any? He just kept saying, I just don't eat it. Well, I'm like, there's got to be a reason. Do you want some later? Do you not like it? He said, I just don't eat it. And I'm like, why? And so he finally broke down and told me that when he was a kid, um, maybe 7, 8 years old, he and some buddies stole a watermelon from a neighbor's garden.
Okay.
And when his father, who was my grandfather, found out about it, my grandfather beat him. He beat him so severely that he never ate watermelon again. And when that story kind of came up in my consciousness, even though he told me the story in the 1990s, I'm remembering it in 2020. Even when he told me that story, I said to him, I said, Billy, that was a couple of years back. Do 50 years, 60 years, do you think maybe the lesson was supposed to be thou shalt not steal? Right? And my uncle just looked at me and said, I don't eat watermelon. And that was
Yeah.
the end of
It's
that.
the lesson
So
in the mind that makes things.
exactly. And so when I remember that story, it was it was like the sky opened up for me. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. My uncle didn't eat watermelon because he was traumatized, because of the pain that he associated with the experience, because it was so hard for him, right? He just he couldn't do it because of the memory, because of the event, because of the experience. What if the opposite is the true for me? What if I overeat certain things because I attach pleasure to it? Because I attach other meanings that make me want it. Not that I want the food, what I want is the pleasure. And when I made that connection, everything shifted in my world. It shifted in that moment. I mean, I had an understanding and a clarity that I never ever had in my
Yeah, I
life.
think
And
we
at
need
that,
a story to highlight a way of thinking. Uh,
absolutely, absolutely. And so what? And with that story, then I started to go through other stories and other experiences that I attached to food to kind of break things down. But I want to go back to this watermelon story because there's some things in this story that make it really important. So when I think about I think about the story from a couple of vantage points. I think about it from my grandfather's vantage point, and I think about it from my uncle's vantage point. So it was summertime. First of all, it was summertime. It was hot. He was with his friends. He probably wasn't even hungry, right?
wow, yeah,
It was summertime. They were probably thirsty.
exactly.
That that's that's thing one. So how many times when we're on this journey do we eat instead of drink, right? If my uncle had been by himself, he wouldn't have stolen that watermelon. He wouldn't have just been walking down the street and said, "Oh, there's a watermelon. I'm going to steal it." He wouldn't have done it. But he was with a group. How many times are we at home minding our own business and somebody calls up and says, "Oh, we're going out to dinner. You want to go? You want to meet us for lunch?" Right? Maybe you just ate. Yeah, I'm coming right now. Let me get my purse. Where we
Exactly.
going? Right? Because it's the group, right? Or you're out to dinner and everybody's getting dessert. I'm gonna
It's
get
the
dessert too, right?
influence, exactly.
Right. So it's that if he had been by himself, it would not have
He would
happened.
have been
It
eating watermelon today.
he'd be eating. Well, maybe not today because he's dead. But he, but he wouldn't have. He would have had a lifetime of when he would have been able to experience the joy of it. So those two things he would. And if they had been down the street playing whatever game they played back in 1930s Marshall, Texas, stickball or kickball or whatever, they wouldn't have stolen a watermelon. They didn't have anything else to do. They were bored. Let's steal a water. I know. Let's steal a watermelon. That might be fun, right? Right. That's what happened. I wasn't there, but I know that that's what happened.
The game
And so
shifted to the field. Exactly.
so that's what happened. And I think about it now. How many times did I say, "Oh, let's go out to eat, but let's go someplace fun," using food as entertainment, and the restaurants take advantage of it. Now you go to the places where they have a dinner and a show, or it's a dinner show. They make it entertaining. They make it an activity. They do things that keep you engaged because they're not necessarily trying to make it around the food. They're trying to make it around the experience. And when we do that, we lose track of the fact that food is just for nutrition and nourishment. It is not entertainment. But the culture wants us to think that. So from so that's on the other part of the story. The other part of the story is from my grandfather's standpoint. My grandfather beat him because first of all, he didn't want anybody thinking that he couldn't afford to feed his family. That's that that was part of. He was a church trustee. He can't have people in the church talking about his son going around stealing. That's not happening. We're just going to correct this right now at the point of infraction. And so it was a status thing. It was a pride thing. We make decisions right now today about what we're going to eat out of status. You know, people feel some kind of way if they're going to some sort of fancy steakhouse, some sort of expensive place on the water, some sort of right. There's a judgment. There's a something that's attached to that, and the food people, the manufacturers, restaurant people know it. The second thing is this is that this happened in 1930s Marshall, Texas, in the deep South. And What my grandfather could not have happened was for his son to make the mistake of stealing something from the wrong person that would cost him his life. So he had to make sure that the punishment that he administered helped him understand that.
Exactly.
Because in his mind, he was saving his life. He was saving him from himself, right? He had to do that. That's the only way he knew how to do it. So he was not going to have anybody thinking, first of all, that he couldn't provide for his family. He wasn't going to have anybody thinking that his son was a thief. And third of all, he wasn't going to have his son being put in a situation where his life his life would be in jeopardy because of this habit. So all of this around food. So we have some strong emotions that are attached to food that are in play in all of our lives that we don't always know what they are. So the work is for us to sit down and evaluate that, because until we can do it, we can't do the first thing that a diet might tell us to do, right? And so the diet says eat, eat, just eat until you're full, right? Eat until you're full. But if you grew up with a family that says we don't waste food, we don't throw away food, right? You need to clean your plate, right? because because food is, we worked hard for
Not
this.
good.
Food is money, we're not throwing that away, right? Then you grew up with that, then your mind is going to override that. You, right?
Exactly.
So if you grew up where things were kind of um, tight and tight when it came to food, and sometimes you went to bed hungry. Well, now that you're an adult, you feel like you can't go to bed hungry, right? Because going to bed hungry means that it brings back these feelings of lack, right?
Exactly.
And not being able to provide for your family, not having food, right? There's some shame that's attached to that. Even though you may have a big house, big kitchen full of stuff right now, you're still tied to some old memories of not being able to go to bed hungry. But if you have excess weight on you, you might need to do that. Right? You might
You
you,
have
you,
no
you
choice.
might need to
You're
do
gonna
that.
start somewhere. You're gonna start somewhere.
So
Uh,
so so
then let me ask,
so that's the work.
one of your workshops titled Solitude, friend or foe on your healing journey. What was it about?
Which one was this now?
Solitude. Friend.
Oh, solitude.
Yes.
Yes, yes, solitude. So
It was
oh
a
man.
workshop.
Yes, yes, it's a workshop. So what I do in addition to my 52-week program, what I do about once a month or so is what I call healing through reading, writing, and storytelling. And this is a workshop, a 90-minute workshop that is under my program umbrella of Write Your Way to Your Right Weight. And the series that we're doing this year is we are really diving into the sacredness of this of getting connected to ourselves, because even though this is about weight loss, this is really about getting connected to ourselves and saving our lives. That's the real thing that's at stake. It's not the scale that's at stake. It's not getting into a smaller size or wearing a certain dress. It is having this consciousness that everything that we eat is either going to heal us or hurt us. Everything that we eat is going to cure us or kill us. It may kill us slowly, but it's not neutral. And we live in a toxic food environment that will do that for us if we're not will do that to us if we're not conscious about it. So back to solitude. Back to the solitude workshop. So this journey, this journey that we take on this writing journey is a sacred journey to help us understand that it is an honor to take care of our bodies and our health.
Exactly.
And it is an honor to do that, to use food, real food, in the right way, to do that, to serve us so that we can serve others. So what happens is that we have to get to the point where we can understand, like, the space that we're in. And solitude is one of those things that and the way I do it in the workshop, it is like this comparison between solitude and loneliness, solitude and aloneness, and going deep into having this understanding that in order for us to get to the answers that are inside of us, we need alone time with ourselves. That time with ourselves is sacred for us to go on this journey of discovery. And with so much going on in this environment, just this uh, what's chaos, the chaos in our minds, the chaos in our environment, toxic people, toxic situations, just the overstimulation, and that overstimulation sends us down this road where it makes it hard for us to make choices that are in our own best interest. So when we're able to, like, pull back and find some space to be alone, find some solitude, to choose that time, to choose alone time. And that's the key about solitude. It is choosing to be alone with yourself so that you can get connected to yourself. And how do you do that? And what happens when you do that? Right? What's the benefit of doing that? What it feels like, what it looks like. So
So
that's what that workshop was about.
basically learning to deal with yourself as well, probably when you are living that struggle between I want to go to the fridge or I don't, or I should not go to the fridge. Why do I have to snack? Or like, why should I snack or should not? Or what to eat or not to eat?
Right. And so I don't I talk a bit about what to eat, but I'm not giving out recipes and food plans, right? I will talk about a category, right? And I talk about food in this context, that the purpose of food is to provide nutrition and nourishment. And we have to know what that looks like. We have to know what it doesn't look like. And we have to make decisions. Really, is this nourishing, is this nutritious, right? Or is this really poison, right? How do I know that? How do I evaluate that? And to get really clear that's the question. Am I hungry, or am I something else? What does real hunger feel like? Just because it shows up in my stomach doesn't mean that it's hunger, because all sorts of emotions, all sorts of other stuff show up in our stomach. So we have to, first of all, be able to differentiate between the stuff that shows up in our stomach that really is hunger, and the stuff that shows up in our stomach that isn't hunger. So once we're clear that it's hunger, and it's hunger and not something else, then we have to be clear that what we're eating is food and not poison.
Okay. And if some companies would like to invite you for a pep talk or a session, do you do that?
Absolutely.
Or in person? You can do that virtually as well.
Virtually and in person.
What
Yes.
is
Yes.
success age to give that workshop to?
I'm sorry, what now?
What is the success age of people? Do you give it, let's say, to high school student,
Yeah.
to
Oh, okay. I got you. Yes. Yes. There. So when I'm talking to students, when I'm talking to organizations, when I'm talking to corporations, and I'm not coaching, for weight loss, what I talk about, and this is the thing that is not discussed, is that I talk about how important it is not just to eat for nutrition and nourishment, but for performance, for productivity, and for proficiency, because food feeds our brains. I mean, we hear so much about, I want to eat because I want to lose weight, but the bigger thing is that what we eat, if we're not eating real whole food, it impairs cognition. It impairs memory. It causes the processed food that's out there, the processed food, the sugar, all the additives. It keeps us from performing at our highest level. So if you're not going to eat for any other reason, just eat to be smarter. Eat because you want your memory back. Eat because of cognition. Eat because you want to perform better at work. Eat for that.
Exactly. Exactly. 100%. Because it's so important. Because if you don't have a proper meal, the wrong meal will ruin your day and your state
Absolutely.
of mind and the way you feel and everything else. We're about to wrap up, but I still have a set of questions that require small answers. I want
Okay.
to know
I
you,
can
and
be rambly.
I do.
I'll be rambly. I'll be short.
Okay. So, no, what you said was very important, but now we reach the phase where we have small questions. So, continuously, you offer workshops, and if people want you, I'm going to be sharing your links to contact you. Okay.
Okay.
When did you decide to become an author? At what age? Not tell
Oh,
me your age.
no, no, no,
When did
no, no,
you
no.
decide to become an author? Was it recently? Was it like your child dream to
No,
become
it was, it was in
2020?
2020. It was, it was in 2020 when the pandemic hit, and I started to write.
Okay.
That's when it
What
happened.
was your child's dream?
My child's dream. What, my child, you know, I, I I lived my dream life for a long time. Once I graduated from college, I went to work in television, advertising, and media, and that was the thing that I wanted to do. And it was a job that I was passionate about, and it was a job that I was good at, but it was not my
Okay.
purpose.
What do you tell Michelle Pettis, the young child, if you can go back in time? What would you tell her?
Well, I would. Oh, I would. You know what I would tell her? I would tell her to listen to everything your grandmama says.
That's a point.
listen,
That's where wisdom
listen,
comes from.
listen to her, because now when I sit, and and I actually just wrote a story about her, and I think about, oh my God, if I had just listened to her, I would be so much better. I'd be so much better off.
You know, didn't we all insisted on doing things our way at many?
Yes,
We want to
yes,
learn from our own mistakes. No one would listen to others.
yes, yes, yes.
Did you ever see yourself at the TEDx speaker or it just popped up? Was it something you wanted? No.
No, 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 no. And see, here's the thing, Badia. I never saw myself on stage because for so many years I was ashamed of what I looked like. And one of the things that's really hard about this work that I do is because I spent so many years hiding from the camera, hiding from the mirror, hiding from the scales, take my picture from the take my picture from the neck up, or I don't want to be in the picture, that people don't believe that I was, at some point I was so big I couldn't even get insurance. Right. So that it's hard. So no, I never dreamed being on stage, people looking at me.
Mm. Isn't it that sometimes like we know the solution, but we can't reach it? It takes
Yeah.
going back. But you've done it. You found the strength in the mind within yourself to
Mm-hmm.
cure the obesity and the extra weight and the malfunction of the body for everyone. All
Yeah.
we need to do is just talk to ourselves and go back to our mind,
Yes.
which is perfect. What is next for Michelle Pettis? What are
Oh my goodness.
steps?
Oh my goodness. I'm working on two new books. I'm working on a journal. And the journal is this process. The journal is called "It's Not About the Food," and I'm still trying to figure out the subtitle. But the title of the journal is "Not About the Food," and I think the subtitle is going to be "52 Reasons Not to Eat." And so, what the journal mirrors my program, which is every week for 52 weeks we unpack a different emotion, and I give you writing prompts every day of the week for that emotion which you go through with a partner. And at the end of the year, you're transformed, because here's the thing. At the end of the year, you will be able to recognize what emotions that are happening inside of you, and you will know that they are not hunger.
Looking
And that is a powerful place to be, right? Because if we know that 75% of people are saying I'm an emotional eater, at the end of the year, you won't be, because you'll be able to recognize the emotion and know what the emotion is. So working on that journal, working on another book, and that's keeping me pretty busy.
so we have a meeting once they're out to come back and discuss them. Do you consider yourself an author, writer, a coach, or a TEDx speaker? Where do you find yourself most comfortable now?
I'm all that.
You
I don't
don't?
have to choose. I don't have
Ah,
to. I don't have. I can be all those
and
things. I can.
comfortable equally with all three?
So in yes, yes. In if I'm talking to somebody and they need coaching, I'm a food story coach, like right there, right there on the spot. Right. If I'm someplace and they need somebody, do a workshop and come up and do a talk, I'm in it right now. If you were in my space right now, you would see notebooks all over the place, because I'm always writing. I mean, I get so frustrated because I have more books in my head than I know that I'll ever live long enough to write. So I'm
Exactly.
just
And here is the last question that I hadn't sent you. It's as we say, the question of the day.
okay.
We all have an incident or a story or witnessed something in our life that changed us. What incident changed your life and made you who you are today?
It's it has got to be that watermelon
The
story.
water
That
story.
that that and I look back on it, and there's so many different ways to kind of frame
I
it,
know.
right? The watermelon saved my life. But at the time that my uncle told me that story, I had no
What
idea
it meant.
that it what it meant. No, I didn't. But but for that story, but for that story, I would still be trapped. But for that story. So that moment, that moment in time just shifted shifted everything for me. It did. And what I also know is that when I tell that story, that it shifts things for other people too.
Exactly.
It shifts things for other people too.
Exactly.
So yeah, without
Especially that
without
has many meanings. Okay. People who were not there with us, they're gonna wonder what is the watermelon story. I invite you to go back and listen once I share the session. Michelle Pettis, you can proudly say that you are the hero of your own story. Truly. I thank you for being with me today, for being with our audience. And now I'm going to share the session with everyone on all the platforms, and I'll send you the link as well. It's really interesting getting to know you. I know no matter how long we speak, it's not enough, but I'll be sharing the links to your book, to the TEDx, to everything for everyone to get to know you. And if they have any questions, they can contact you directly. I'm looking forward to coming again and have another session once your book and journal come out. I'm sure we're gonna hear different things and new things. It's really very interesting.
uh, Badiaa, thank you so much for having this platform. Just wonderful, beautiful work. It has been a delight just to enjoy it. Spend this past hour with you. I'm so appreciative to you, and just I'm grateful on so many
Thank you,
levels.
dear. And for everyone, I say that this platform is for whoever have a story to share. If you're author to author, you're welcome. coach to author. Thank you, dear. Thank you for being with us. Like, if you're a coach and you'd like to come share specific techniques, I'm here for you. If you have a book, a new story, I'm always here. I don't believe that if I'm an author, you cannot be on my platform. The more the merrier. Let people know what's happening and who's out there, and looking forward to remaining in touch. Bye bye. Bye bye, Michelle. Bye bye to our audience,
Bye.
and looking forward to keeping in touch. Bye.
Bye bye.